Welcome, classic film fans, to a side of Hollywood you've never seen before. We all remember Paul Newman, those blue eyes, that effortless charm, the man who made salad dressing as famous as his film roles. He was the epitome of cool, the golden boy of the golden age. But behind every tailored suit and disarming smile there's a story, a darker one. Today we're pulling back the velvet curtain to reveal the top 7 actors Paul Newman reportedly couldn't stand. These weren't just professional disagreements, they were deeply personal feuds. Clashes of titans that played out in whispers and explosive confrontations. You think you know Paul Newman? You only know the man they wanted you to see. Prepare yourselves. We're about to shatter that illusion. We'll delve into the jealousy, the backstabbing, and the bitter competition that defined his relationships with Hollywood's biggest names. And the #1 rival? It's a name you'll never see coming. Our countdown begins not with a living rival, but with a ghost, James Dean. In the mid-1950s, Hollywood was desperate to find Dean's successor after his tragic death. Their eyes fell on a young actor from Ohio, Paul Newman. Newman's big break, Somebody Up There Likes Me, was a role meant for Dean. From that moment, Newman was labeled the next James Dean. For Newman it felt like a curse. He wasn't James Dean, and he didn't want to be. Newman prided himself on discipline and versatility, while Dean was all raw emotion. The constant comparisons dismissed Newman's unique talent and hard work. It was a battle for his own identity, a psychological war that fueled his determination to carve out his own legacy. Every interview, every review, it was always there. The new Dean. Newman had to prove he was more than a replacement, more than a pale imitation. Through sheer talent in films like The Hustler and HUD, he finally shed the label. He became simply Paul Newman. But the frustration of those early years, the bitterness of being measured against a ghost, never truly left him. It was the first great battle of his career. A silent feud with a man he barely knew but whose shadow loomed so large. This rivalry wasn't about shouting matches, it was about escaping a legend's shadow, and it defined Newman's drive for the rest of his life. Some rivalries are born of jealousy, others of circumstance. For Paul Newman and Richard Burton, it was mutual dislike. Both were giants. Newman, the cool American; Burton, the tempestuous Welshman. They moved in the same circles, considered for the same roles, but their respect curdled into professional jealousy. Burton saw Newman as a product of American method acting. Newman found Burton's theatrics arrogant. Newman valued privacy and professionalism, while Burton's life was a public spectacle. There was a constant, unspoken competition for the title of greatest actor of their generation. Their rivalry was a Cold War, icy encounters, dismissive comments, and a constant measuring of one against the other. Each man's success was a subtle reminder to the other of what they hadn't achieved. Burton never won a competitive Oscar. Newman eventually did. They respected each other's power but disliked everything the other stood for. Newman's quiet intensity versus Burton's roaring passion. A conflict not of action, but of being. A deep, abiding professional animosity simmered beneath Hollywood's golden facade. If the rivalry with Burton was a Cold War, the conflict with George C. Scott was a direct clash of philosophies. Newman, a devout method actor, believed in internalizing a role. Scott, on the other hand, called the method a crock. He believed in technique and imagination. Their differences came to a head during the Broadway production of Sweet Bird of Youth. On stage, their chemistry was electric. Backstage, the tension was thick. Scott delivered his lines with thunderous power and left. Newman agonized over emotional truth. Scott saw Newman's process as unreliable and self-important. For Newman, Scott's dismissal was a personal attack, a rejection of his artistic identity. This philosophical chasm created a lasting rift. Newman represented the sensitive artist, Scott, the disciplined craftsman. Each man's success was an implicit criticism of the other's belief system. Their disagreement went to the heart of what it means to create art, feeling versus showing. The tension was rooted in conviction. Both convinced their way was the only way. Every collaboration was fraught with unspoken judgment. It was a rivalry of ideas, as intense as any shouting match. On the surface, Paul Newman and Frank Sinatra should have gotten along, both icons, both cool, but Sinatra's cool was sharp and demanding, Newman's was relaxed and introspective. Sinatra believed in a one-take philosophy, get it done and move on. Newman, a method actor, needed to explore a scene to live in the moment. This fundamental difference in work ethic created immediate tension. Offset, their personalities clashed even more. Newman was a private family man. Sinatra, the leader of the Rat Pack, expected the world to bend to his will. Newman was unimpressed by Sinatra's swagger and entourage, seeing it as ego and showbiz royalty. Stories abound of Newman's quiet refusal to play along with Sinatra's world order, which caused offense. This wasn't a rivalry over a woman or a role, it was a clash of kingdoms. Newman valued authenticity and craft, Sinatra valued efficiency and command. They were two Hollywood alpha males who couldn't coexist comfortably. The animosity was quiet but deep. For Newman, Sinatra represented the glitzy side of show business he despised. For Sinatra, Newman was the pretentious, time-wasting indulgence of the serious actor. Paul Newman and Robert Redford. On-screen, pure magic. Off-screen, a friendship built on competition. Newman was the established king. Redford, the up-and-coming challenger. Their collaboration on Butch Cassidy was a passing of the torch. But Redford's overnight stardom shifted the dynamic. Suddenly, they were rivals for the same roles, the top spot in Hollywood. The press loved to compare them, and the friendship began to show cracks. During the sting, tension was palpable. Disagreements on set, subtle power plays. The easy camaraderie was replaced by cautious respect. Newman was sometimes irked by Redford's meticulous nature and growing power. Redford felt he was still living in Newman's shadow. Their friendship became a dance of affection and ambition. They'd go long periods without speaking, then reconnect. Redford called their relationship complicated, acknowledging the unspoken rivalry. It wasn't hateful, but it was real. A natural consequence of two ambitious men sharing the same rarefied air. The bond they forged on screen was perhaps stronger than in real life. A great friendship, tested and transformed by success. If James Dean was the ghost of Newman's past, Marlon Brando was the living rival who defined his present. Both were kings of method acting, but their shared background created a battleground, not a bond. Brando got there first, revolutionizing cinema with a streetcar named Desire. Newman arrived soon after, and the comparisons were relentless. Brando reportedly saw Newman as a more polished, less dangerous version of himself, a Brando light. This fueled Newman's drive to prove he was a formidable artist in his own right. Their acting styles diverged. Brando became eccentric and unpredictable. Newman, the consummate professional. Newman saw Brando's later behavior as a betrayal of the craft. Their rivalry was a clash of egos, two heavyweights constantly measured against each other. The tension was about more than acting, it was about persona. Brando was the tortured genius, Newman, the cool professional. Brando's mythic status often overshadowed Newman's steady brilliance. Newman was constantly compared to a man the world treated as his superior. It was a silent, decades-long struggle for respect and identity. The rivalry with Brando was the ultimate test of Newman's career. The #1 rivalry of Paul Newman's career, Steve McQueen, the king of cool. This wasn't just a clash of egos, it was a war. Their rivalry simmered for years. Two blue-eyed anti-heroes, always up for the same roles. McQueen was offered Butch Cassidy first, but turned it down. He was considered for the sting. They were alpha wolves circling the same territory, never able to be friends. McQueen was fiercely insecure, seeing Newman as the golden boy. The battleground, the Towering Inferno. Getting them to agree to co-star was a nightmare. McQueen demanded equal salary and the exact same number of lines. When he found Newman had 12 more lines, he refused to come to set until the script was rewritten. The writers had to add meaningless lines for McQueen to balance the scales. On set, McQueen refused to be seen taking orders from Newman, changing lines and trying to steal scenes. Newman, ever the professional, played along, knowing it drove McQueen crazy. It was a silent, vicious battle of wills in front of the entire cast and crew. For McQueen, it was an obsession. He saw Newman as the establishment figure he could never beat. The Towering Inferno became the ultimate showdown. Two icons, trapped in a burning building, each determined to prove he was the bigger star. Their feud was legendary, a true Hollywood war. It was more than rivalry. It was obsession, especially for McQueen. Newman's calm only fueled McQueen's fire. The result, a feud for the ages. So there you have it, the ghosts, the giants, and the Towering Inferno of ego behind those famous blue eyes. Paul Newman was a legend, but also a competitor in Hollywood's pressure cooker. These rivalries don't diminish his legacy, they deepen it. They show us the fire and fight that forged the icon we thought we knew. From the silent battle with a ghost, to the line-by-line warfare with Steve McQueen, these stories remind us that behind the glamour, the work was a battlefield. Which rivalry shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe for more deep dives into classic Hollywood's secret histories. We have so many more stories to tell.